Francis, went to meet with Putin recently. And that meeting was actually because they're looking for protection. Because, you know, as this real history comes out.
Excuse me. Is it on the post looking for protection?
When you know how the real world works,
right.
See, because the world is run by masonry.
Right. Right.
You understand what I'm saying? All over.
Right.
And it's run by oligarchs. Now, to the masses, they're dealing with what they think is nation states in the concept. Oligarchs. Oligarchs.
Oligarch.
Now, and so, but there's a network, and see, a lot of this oligarchy was set up with this coup that we're talking about, the coup d'etat. And see, just like anything else, and this is where you get the loose phrase "made men." You know, so in order for this thing to operate, even though they're corrupt, there has to be a certain amount of honor amongst thieves. And so there's a network around the world. And this is why you see, you know, Rockefeller Foundations and the Rothschild Foundation, which is not their real names, these are fronts, all around the world, and this thing has pretty much worked. And the difficulty is that they're having, as Putin has put a crimp in the gears, and then he kicked the Rockefellers out. I mean, the Rothschilds out recently. Because remember, see, for those who know history, you got to remember when these operations was going on here, even with this coup d'etat stuff going on, you know that Russia had ships down there in the Gulf protecting this order to counter the operations of the district of the Treaty of Verona to these operations. And so, again, the history here, contemporary, is generally not taught to the masses. Then you got to remember they loaned them some gold too, and then they killed the families and have never returned that gold. So you got to remember now Putin. His background is more closer with the indigenous people there than it is with the other European stock of Russians. So he has more of an indigenous, aboriginal type mentality. And they haven't forgotten the Europeans killing off the Russian families after they stole their gold.
It's ours.
Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So, and then they just recently killed, you know, booted the Rothschilds out of Russia. And immediately the standard of living within a year or so raised almost double in Russia. And see, so he's sort of like a crimp in the gear of the cabal operations. And see, so where they're operating with a reality of the politics like this, as opposed to what, see, most of the people, not rulers, in the Western Hemisphere are governed by belief systems. The real world deals with mathematics. Do you understand? And so when you're dealing with governments, you know, they already know this whole thing is oligarchies. They know that the masses are under a spell. They know that you can't even reason with the masses. Do you understand? So there's no need to go there. And so they're dealing with the real history, and they ain't having it. And Putin has put a wrench in the whole gears of the cabal operations on the planet and the oligarchy. Then what has occurred, they've joined forces with the ancient Manchurian families. And so this is what's really happening. So whereas the U.S. corporation operations of the Vatican and Jesuit order could be either one of them, those operations, even though they're losing power now, but they can't beat them together. This is where your negotiations are going on. Then as the people are finding out the real history, and particularly because a lot of the so-called made man in the different Masonic orders, Skull and Bones, Illuminati, etc., are starting to disappear. Not in the main press, but disappear. So there's inspiration for them to make some adjustments. the network linkage has been broken. This is where you see a couple of years ago where the head of Comex in Manhattan, where he was so happy he was going down to lunch on I forget what number floor it was. So he went upstairs and his wife was down and he was coming back to the table. But he was so happy of all the funds that he had, he just went up and forgot that there wasn't steps on the side of the building and jumped off in the middle of the street. And then the very next day, that Monday, his counterpart in the District of London did the same thing. So that broke that link with the Comex. And so now all these derivatives with these paper instruments on top of the gold that was being sold, what they call it paper gold, started crashing. And so this is back to really understanding the platforms by which these operations are taking place or being dismantled. See, because it's a network.
Wouldn't it behoove Iran to be with China and Russia?
Well, why you think the U.S. corporation is telling people that Iran signed this so-called nuclear pact, and all research said they didn't sign shit? You know, there's a lot of things that everybody keeps saying ain't really what's up. That's indicative that they're falling apart. You understand? I mean, they're still powerful, but they're falling apart. And like anything else, you know, even people that know these things, you know, you get used to institutions having certain, and it's just hard to accept that they're really out of power. It's just you're just going through transition. You know, but they're out.
It's already taking place.
You know, it's not overnight. And just like so when people who don't understand this, even if you see Obama's speech, why he said, you know, this is some kind of way to end the republic. You know, these are signals. You know, he's telling you things, and you know, all of a sudden he's telling people, showing people, he's taking pictures with Michelle. You know, with only the true American flag, just the Moorish flag, but the stars and stripes ain't in the picture. She wears a red dress. You know, all these little signals, you gotta, you know, it's over. They say, well, how come Obama ain't doing president stuff? He's playing God. He's supposed to be doing president stuff. I ain't got no job. And and he's playing, what, 368 rounds of golf more than any president. But if you understand, he was said that, if you read this letter, he's done his job. He said he's gonna make him some Tubmans. He's gonna go out and make some Tubmans. Yeah, you know, but if you understand the real history, none of this stuff surprised you. Now, again, and I can only say this redundantly, the problem that we have is, just like it's a few of us in this room, what we're talking about affects every man, woman, and child on the planet, and particularly the ones here who think they black. You understand? They're at the center of this, and they need to know it more than anyone else, and they're the least interested. Most of them distracted by their black leaders who they think are really spiritual guys of goodness, of Allah-ness, with Jesus-ness. Anyway, meanwhile, because things are accelerating, they're going to be caught behind the learning curve because they won't have the tools to operate with, because it's mental. You know, I mean, a lot of this stuff is mental. You know, again, you can pretty much figure it out yourself. But again, so the Pope's telling it all in a short dissertation, both history and law, and who the bond is really against. So now all these sovereignty groups who think they're the holder in due course because they perfected their UCCs, they ain't the bond ain't against them, it's the African Americans. Who's them African Americans? The defeated Moors. Who's them Moors? There you go to George Washington letter. You're at the Moroccan Empire. These are Moorish dominions, you understand? And they no longer have right to do business on these dominions. It's being dissolved. The Moors don't have weaponry, so the Manchurian families have released on the planet over 6.5 million perfected assassins. And they're telling the Europeans, 10 to 1, Take one, you're gonna lose 10. See who lasts. So now they're negotiating. That's what's going on. Any other questions?
Yes.
That's the real politics that's going on. You know, so all of your European different so-called groups are being exposed. All your black leader guys are being exposed by default. You know, and so logically the Pope's getting on the right side of history before the major change. And again, like we said earlier, he met with Putin recently because they're looking for protection. If you understand how things really operate, you know, there's what you call sort of like a gentleman's agreement. The world is run by oligarchs, and whereas they would sacrifice the general people, those who are made men could do stuff even in other countries, and they may be moved around, but they don't have to worry about being assassinated. Now that's kind of like changed a little bit, and so this is what's going on. This is why they're looking for protection, because they already know as this stuff is coming out, and particularly with the revelation of the eating of babies for all these years, hundreds of dozens of thousands over the years, and that the blood and cracker ritual is a ritual of what they've been doing for real in the background. With a lot of these politicians, this is why it was actually a sting operation to pull fiat back to the U.S. to try to fill this back hole. This is what this stuff is happening out there in Arizona and Wyoming and stuff like this. With these deals for the fiat to come back, etc., which is not going to fill a hole. There was some, which you already know, when you start getting into your high degrees of Masonic orders, you know, you got assassinations too, because you understand the assassins. Because this whole foundation is based on that too. And so they're going to bomb the Vatican, get rid of the problem. Drop one on London, drop one on the Vatican, so they're making deals. As well as all the domes that they've created around the world, they've already been planted, so if they go underground, they will be coming up from under the ground with a quick lighting systems that's very hot. And so that's already in place, so they ain't going to start shit up here and go underground and get away with it. So you got negotiations going on. So again, so that's why I say when you look at the Pope's letter, look at it with a grain of salt. Now, some say he's an angel of light, but you already know they already got murder charges on him in a couple of European countries now already. And that's only some of the babies they ate. So you already know the deal. So you can pretty much figure this out. Nevertheless, that the Pope even issued this telling the real history, which also crushes a lot of your subdivisions of your Masonic orders and their rituals, because a lot of the rituals, the allegorical stories, etc., particularly one of the Hiram Abiff, will become obvious to people, including the standard dispensation of the Gnostic wisdom of Group de Moabites, which is one of the major lessons they will get in all the orders, and they find out that these people are Moabite, and the Moabites, you know, Jesus, Ruth, etc., ancient name for Moors, and why they got that crown of light, etc. The whole game. And so they're going to be doing wars to try to divert the pressure off of them, because people are going to start going to these churches, mosques, and synagogues and trying to see how quickly they can stop their air pipes. And so they're looking for protection. They're looking for protection. See, because they already know what's coming. See, the masses are asleep, so they can't see it.
Right.
People who understand these things know it's coming. They don't guess it's coming, they know it's coming. So what they're doing, they're setting up systems to protect themselves. Do you understand? So they're going to start wars as well as do things against the people. And this is where you see when the Pope's talking about they're going to take all the arms that they've unlawfully amassed, etc. And they're trying to do what? Take the arms of the people.
Right.
And so they're planning on putting the people in the camp, the Pope planning on putting them in the camps. Do you get the race?
It's a race.
Oh, yeah.
With a book like this, they're trying, to me, it seems like they're trying to get back under the Republican force, saying that, oh, this has all been done wrong and we should get back under the, they want to put the,
Yeah.
but
now,
how do you,
Now, but let's look at this. Let's look at this. Just look at this. Third line up there. Instead of freeing African Americans, the sum total of the Civil War was to vastly expand public sector ownership of slaves, giving rise to the outrageous and improper claims that have been made against the American states and American state citizens that we are dealing with today. So this whole thing ain't got a damn thing to do with descendants of colonists. They're trying to still steal your birthright. They are U.S. citizens. They are what? Naturalization Act. There you go with Ulysses Grant. What did Ulysses Grant do when he won the election with Horace Greeley, who later became a powerful force in the Whigmore Party, which is operative today, with the Kansas-Nebraska Act type thing. What did he do? He altered the Naturalization Act of 1790, and this is where you get in law dictionaries where the European takes on the title of white, the Knights of Columbus Ku Klux Klan oath, the Naturalization Act 1870. Look in your Black's Law Dictionary. And then where it explains to you where free white people does not mean Caucasian race. And it tells you that is what? Moors, inhabitants of what? Spain, Iberia, etc. He's letting you know in the law books that it's a legal status. So when you're looking at what Ulysses Grant did, then you look at Horace Greeley, and you look at the real history and the alteration of the Naturalization Act, that the Europeans are U.S. citizens under juristic operations, which is a privilege. When they broke the treaty, which is the Constitution, they abrogated not just the Gold Clause, but their rights of protections under the treaty and Constitution. Now they want it back. Now, nationals is the highest level of citizen. This is where you get AA. That's where you get AA. See that AA right there? Give me your book for a minute. I'm going to show you something. I want to show you something. Yeah, this is for your concepts to understand this. This is the half of that. What I read from earlier is the other half of this book, which I separated years ago. And the reason I separated because I understood the counterintelligence operations, and I knew others who had control of institutions. I didn't have any finance, so I had to think from here, chess move. So this is really half of the book.
that's not the second half?
This is the one that York used
Yes, okay.
to do the Nawabian Wars.
Oh, well, you said one day you want to
Yeah, this is, yeah. Now, and also, this was to tie C.M. Bey back to the Attic Chamber, because people was trying to separate him and Drew Ali, you know, and so that I knew that was COINTELPRO operations.
Yes.
So now what I did the research on the certificates that are registered in the Library of Congress that people in the Order of the Great Seal get, because you have to do a correspondence, you have to send what is called a cover sheet to Library of Congress, Copyright Office. They would, with 24, at that time, 24 notes, from the Library of Congress, they'd send a certificate, a manila envelope back with your free national name on it, your Elam Bay on it. And they give you a cover with three certificates, and which I'll read in here. And deal with the Moorish nationality, identification card, true Moorish history, clocks of destiny 1 and 2. You deliver that back to us, then we give you the books. They're controlled stock. That's the only way you're supposed to get them books. Now, what I did when I was elected Emir of the Order of the Great Seal in 92, 93, after I saw the infiltration stuff. And then plus I did a little bit of traveling in, Astro. And so I went ahead to see what they was doing. So that's when I did this, and I split the book because I already knew they was going to misuse it. And they had control of institutions, finance and stuff like that. It was just me. And so I set up the round table. And what I did, I outfought them. So this is a strategic move. All right, so now what I did, I tied the certificate's numbers. It's not a verification of this, but the certificate's numbers match the enforcement of treaty law, you see. And most people didn't know that. So what I did, I put it in a book form. So to counter those who were knocking the position and those who didn't know. You see?
Yes.
So they could properly use their ID and also have a legal argument in any claims of jurisdiction. So let's go with this in the, because of time period, I'm just going to go into the law. Code of Law of the United States of America of a general and permanent character enforced January 3rd, 1935. Now this is, of course you know about the institute that CM Bey set up in Ohio. But that's another history, so I'm just trying to go into this. Now, this treatise, which was done by myself, you understand, Moore's order of roundtable for instructional purposes only. Now, Charles Mosby Bey, PhD, LLD, 3rd, 33rd, 360 degree, Master Mason, Free Moorish Master Astrologer, and Moorish Constitution Lawgiver, Isonomy, has copyright certificates registered in the United States Department of Justice under Truth A1 Library of Congress Copyright Office, which reveal at law the conditions of intercourse between the indigenous Moors and the occupational European nations, with whom the Moors have treaties. And this affirms the pre-existing status of Moors in all matters of interchange, commerce, and law with the European side of the nation. The specific certificate of note, because I was focusing on this, Clock of Destiny, Moorish American Nationality Card of Identification with Zodiac Constitution, registration number AA222141, Class A. So what I did, I broke it down what it makes reference to, although it's the certificate number, it didn't make reference to it, but I knew that it made reference. It leads you to things if you research. So I did the research to pull it back together to stop the controversy of the schism that they were producing, trying to divide the Moorish movement. All right. So the number refers to the Code of the Laws of the United States of America of a general and permanent character, enforced January 3rd, 1935, 34th edition, and then I broke it down to number. Title 22, Chapter 2, Section 141. That's your 222141. All right. Now, AA is the highest level of citizenship. So when you study, those green cards and citizenship classification, AA is your highest level. That means the national. Even though they ain't telling people that now. And then when you start looking at your cards in international interchange, it uses from A1 to AA, A1 to A19. And this is where when people are in different jurisdictions, whether they're for education, scientific research, whether they're getting a few years for school, these are your different degrees from A1 to A19, and they will be designated, all right? So AA, that's the highest level, that means national. 222141, Title 22, Chapter 2, Section 141. Now what it refers to is, Title 22 refers to foreign relations and intercourse. Then I give the page so that scholars, which they're going to try to counter this, how they made this stuff, they always do that kind of stuff. So for the scholarly research, 954.
So they got to recognize that 22, like you would
They
recognize
know
Title
this. That's why,
18,
they
Title
know
11.
this is why I did it.
Yes.
Because I already know that we have COINTELPROs amongst our own that keep on trying to divert our people from these fundamental things that all of them should be teaching.
Yes.
You know, but to protect their little clubs, they don't teach this information because it would expose them as COINTELPRO operators. Because this is what's wrong with our people, just like this. This is the foundation of politics. How can you talk about helping our people and you don't talk about these things that's at the foundation of the politics? And it's all about them. And then they try to talk about spirituality and the pyramids in Egypt and everything, and they don't even know what's going on here, and they're standing on their own land. But they won't talk about that. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Allowing these people to have that disconnected mind, and then capitalizing on them, acting like they're good leader girls and guys. They're full of shit. Anyway, so the chapter is consular courts, right? And section 141 is judicial authority generally. And what it deals with, to carry into full effect the provisions of the treaties of the United States with certain foreign countries. Now let's look at a synopsis here. A synopsis. Title 22, Foreign Relations and Intercourse, page 954, and you know that's 29. So that's 2 9s, right? And so 2 9s is 18, right?
Yes.
And then 1 and 9 is 1 and 8 is 9.
Yes.
So you see the 9,
Yes.
right? So it's 9 squared. That's not accidental.
Yeah.
Anyway, chapter 2, consular courts. So that means we will be dealing with consular courts. Then when you do research with Eisenhower,
Shut them down in 54.
yes, and then they liberated the area near Tripoli and called it Morocco
Yes.
when they were supposed to release the empire, which you see in George Washington's letter. So what they did, they shut down consular courts. Do you understand? Sanctioned the kingdom section of Morocco,
Which is in Africa.
on that side,
Yes.
and then maintained the empire, closed consular courts, and then promoted the civil rights thing with their Negro March leaders, and denied us process to enforce these operations here.
They didn't have them use that flag.
There you go.
They had them use that flag because the original flag that they used was a black flag with a crescent and a star in it.
Yeah, and not just that, what they did is use the red flag only when it started with a black bar above it and a black bar beneath the star, to make the distinction between kingdom and the empire properly, which is northwest of Mexico. This is why when Calvin Coolidge took the flag out of the vault, Drawley told him to put the star back in. And this is, then you have the operations of J. Edgar Hoover setting up the COINTELPRO operations. And this is the period of time where they call the great sellout that nobody wants to talk about. But anyway, so you've got to understand your politics. And so, section 141, judicial authority generally, to carry into full effect the provisions of the treaties of the United States with certain foreign countries. The ministers and consuls of the United States in China, Siam, Turkey, Morocco, Muscat, Abyssinia, Persia, and the territories formerly a part of the former Ottoman Empire, including Egypt. Now you understand chapter 47. You understand the dissolution of the Moorish Empire under the guise of the Ottoman Empire, 1884, 1885, in the Berlin Conference. See, so you know history, you can put these puzzles together. If you don't, you don't get it. This is where the so-called black leaders have been cheating our people. You see the point? Because they know this stuff, and they keep on talking other bullshit to keep people diverted, like they doing something special. You know, I'm telling you, this stuff is deep. Anyway, so duly appointed to reside therein shall, in addition to other powers and duties imposed upon them, respectively, by the provisions of such treaties, respectively, be invested with judicial authority described in this chapter, which shall appertain to the office of minister and consul, and be a part of the duties belonging thereto, wherein and so far as the same is allowed by treaty. See what Obama's talking about? And in accordance with the usage of the countries in their intercourse with the Franks or other foreign Christian nations. Then you got lowercase. So now you see that Christian nations is a political system, ain't got a damn thing to do with no spirituality, religion that people keep thinking. And so now you have Title 22, 142, and 143. And so what it refers to is officers mentioned in Section 141 of this title are fully empowered to arraign and try in the manner provided for in this chapter all citizens of the United States charged with offenses against the law committed in such countries, respectively, and to sentence such offenders as in the manner of this chapter authorized, and each of them is authorized to issue such processes as are suitable and necessary to carry this authority into execution. RS subsection 4084, Title 22, Chapter 2, Section 143. General jurisdiction in civil cases. Such officers are invested with all the judicial authority necessary to execute the provisions of such treaties, respectively, in regard to civil rights, whether of property or person. And they shall entertain jurisdiction in matters of contract at the port where or nearest to which it was to be executed, and in all other matters in the port where or nearest to which the damage complained of was sustained, provided such port be one of the ports at which the United States are represented by consuls. That's not councils, consuls. Such jurisdiction shall embrace all controversies between citizens of the United States or others provided for by such treaties, respectively. RS subsection 4085. So you can see the real deal when we're interfacing with them is we'll have consular courts, not these municipal courts. And so you see what this so-called Negro leaders that keep talking to civil rights is avoiding telling our people where they're supposed to be and making them think that they're U.S. citizens under the 14th Amendment and calling it spirituality, and they're full of shit. That's why I did this. It's also why I separated it. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? See, so now I'm giving smashing with the next, with the other. You know, it's just timing, you know, because it's a spiritual battle. You know what I mean? And so where they had control of institutions, they had finance from the people and everything. I had nothing but cheap sneaks. But you can't beat the mind. You take everything from, you take house, cars, finance. Can't beat that.
That's right.
You understand?
That's right.
So all you gotta do is astral travel. Go up and look at what they do, come back, set traps for them. That's how you beat them. Anyway, so that's what that's all about. But the major point of it is, and so then right after that, and what Eisenhower also did is that they suspended consular courts. And in my second part, I talk about that, but I'll talk about it there in that book. You know, because at that time when I released that, you know, people thought I was out to lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That last sentence, it is uniquely fitting that the Grand Army of the Republic recall to settle the circumstances in favor of the people.
In other words, what he's saying
What
is,
people?
he's talking about the true, look, here you go, look.
Okay.
Who are the people? It's the African Americans. What he means is that they're raising this war to restore us, who are the true American state citizens. That's why he's talking about the geographically defined American states and American state citizens. He's talking about the real people of the land, as opposed to the corporate entity persons called the U.S. citizens, which was the creation of the straw 14th Amendment that Drew Ali talked about in the divine warning by the prophet for the nations when he says the 14th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of my people and citizens. And he says, what? Help me in my great missionary work to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States of America. That's in the divine warning by the prophet for the nations. So now the Pope is backing him up. Whether he has a choice or not, the point of it is he said it and he made it public. So he said it, can't take back now. You understand? That's why when he was here, they closed up highways, because they already know that it's a hit on them. Contract, you understand what I'm saying to you?
Islam, but
Because
brother,
it's a change of the guards.
even with that last line, brother, it's a stipulation that we have to declare our nationality, otherwise it
Well,
doesn't.
this is why Ron Emanuel, you know, the Jew, so-called Jew, left the Obama administration, and, excuse me, we're going to do this and then close up. I know it's 12. One more thing. All right. Now, keep in mind, when Ron Emanuel left the Obama administration, this is why, and you got to pay true attention to the date, Circle 7, Cosmological, Northgate, Sirius, etc. Winter solstice, right? All right.
27.
Now, look at the strategy. Now, keep in mind, he was secretary in the Obama administration, right? And he left, a lot of times when you plug that in, you know, they block it. Yeah. Yeah. So we go again. Or write it differently.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There it is. It's up there.
There it
It
is.
is, brother.
Now, here it is. All right. Now, all right. Now, keep in mind,